All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the work session for the City Council for the City of Wildwood for Monday, February 28, 2022. Ms. Eldridge, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Bolin.
Here.
Councilmember Galani. Here. Councilmember Hopper. Councilmember Jaxie.
Here.
Councilmember Bertolino.
Here.
Councilmember Dodwell.
Here.
Councilmember Ottenberg.
Here.
Councilmember Edens.
Here.
Councilmember Bros.
Here.
Councilmember Garitano.
Present.
Councilmember Flasher.
Here.
Councilmember Rambo.
Here.
Councilmember McCutcheon.
Here.
Councilmember Farmer. Councilmember Nyan.
Here.
Councilmember Bartoni.
Here.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
Okay, excellent. Welcome. Good to see all of you. We have a very full agenda tonight, both on work session and the regular meeting. And so I would just ask, which I usually don't, but tonight I would ask if you'd please be mindful, anything repetitious. If anyone's made the comment, if you want to just say, hey, I agree with that comment, rather than going into that comment all over again, that would be awesome to keep us going. Not that we do that a lot, but anyway, just wanted to mention we got a full agenda and we need to get all of it tackled. And appreciate your understanding and consideration of that. Moving into information, we have 16 items. And does anyone have any comments or questions about anything under information before we go to action items on the agenda? Councilmember Bartoni.
Thank you, Mayor. I think this first one is for Joe, Mr. Bunich. It would go under Planning and Parks Committee D, the recent development trends. And Joe, this is just a request for myself, but maybe for residents as well. On page 2, I believe it is, or maybe it's when you're talking about the different properties that the SCODs are on, towards the bottom, you have a map with each one of them highlighted. Can you put the address inside that so that when we read 149 Strecker Farms, we know which property each one of those is for?
Mr. Bartoni, we certainly can, and it's a nice suggestion. Thank you.
Okay, and then I have one more thing,
Sure.
and I don't know if this would be now, if it would go under, it's a question regarding the tree grant, but the question is more about the ash trees that we're cutting down. Can I ask that now as part of, okay. And I guess
is
this,
it in information here, right?
yes, just
Okay,
for
great.
information. So I guess this would be for Rick. Rick, if we are cutting down an ash tree in front of a resident's house, are we notifying the resident that we're doing that? And if so, like, how, or do they get a letter in the mail? And where this whole thing went is I got a call Friday from a friend of mine who just happens to live in Ward 8, and he said, what's going on with this? My tree's gone. And I said, let me know your address. He said, nope, I don't want special treatment, but my neighbor's really mad. You know, so like, are we notifying them? And if we are going to replace it, are we giving them some sort of a timeline? I'm just kind of curious how we're handling that.
So yes, Councilmember Bartoni, we have mailed postcards to everyone prior to removing their tree to the best of our ability. And actually, we just recently submitted several hundred postcards to the folks on the medium removal list. So they should have gotten a postcard. If there's a specific instance you'd like me to delve into, I'd be glad to do that. Obviously, there's always a chance that we could have made a mistake, but the effort is try to give everybody a postcard in advance before we remove the tree to give them a heads up that we're going to be doing it and why we're doing it, and also ask them if they have any irrigation systems in the right of way near the tree.
Okay, thank you. And it wouldn't surprise me if they did get it delivered. I mean, things get delivered to our house that I don't always see either. Are we notifying if a tree is going to be replaced as well?
Well, the postcard initially is to notify them that the tree has emerald ash borer infestation. It's going to be removed in the coming months. And beyond that, we do state that we plan to replant as basically money allows. So they don't have in the postcard a specific time frame for replanting. It's left somewhat vague, quite frankly, but we do mention that we plan to replant.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else under information? All right, seeing none, going to action items first. I'm sorry, Councilor Clark.
Thank you. Under the work program matrix, the Watershed Erosion Task Force mailers were sent out to all the households, but I didn't get one. When were those mailed?
Ms. Clark, pardon me, Mayor, I jumped the gun
Sorry.
on you. My
Sorry, go ahead.
apologies. Ms. Clark, Kathy Arnett managed that particular mailing. I'll have to go back and look at the mailing list. It may be that it's an overstatement. It may have been any property that abutted a creek, was in the floodway, floodplain, or within a certain distance of a floodway, floodplain, or creek. So it may not have been everybody. I'll have to check that.
Okay, thank you. Anything further on information? All right, seeing none, that takes us to action items. The first is a report from our legislative consultant, Mr. Jake Silverman. Mr. Silverman, would you like to come to the podium? I know we've seen your written reports. Thank you very much for those. Anything in addition to that you want to point out, or any questions you have for us?
No, I was actually just going to talk about can you hear me, by the way?
Yep.
Just talk about some of the things that we're working on right now. Obviously, the biggest one is the watershed erosion. I've had discussions with Representative Cody Smith, who's the budget chair, Senator Dave Schatz, Representative Bruce DeGroot, and Senator Andrew Koenig. Tomorrow, I'm actually having a meeting with Senator Koenig and the governor's staff to discuss a little bit more about the funding, what that funding will look like, how the funding will proceed, whether it's going to be a line item in the budget or if it's going to go through the Department of Natural Resources. We'll probably talk numbers as well. From things that I've heard from Representative Bruce DeGroot is that there could be about 1 to 2 million heading to the city for watershed erosion. So another thing that we're going to discuss is, what the budget looks like for the city and what we can bring to the table. Sometimes they like to do a 50-50 match. That's not always the case, but we're going to see, it's kind of like, I guess I put it in the terms of a sports agent. You can kind of see what we get to work with and how much they're willing to give. So that's tomorrow at 9:30. Another thing that Department of Natural Resources, they are very supportive of what we're trying to do. They know that it's a serious issue. They've sent some information about the possible grants that the city could receive. I've given that to Mr. Cross, and it's something that you can fill out at any point. I know that there's some instructions there as well. That's going to be ARPA funding that the state received. And they actually have a solid amount of money that is actually for water issues. So as DNR, the liaison stated, he said this is probably something that fits perfectly within that realm. A couple other things. I'm just kind of tracking some bills such as the repeal of the gas tax. The gas tax brings in about $500 million for the Missouri Department of Transportation. Well, that's not a direct thing that goes to the city. It is something that, if the city would like to, request funds from MoDOT, you obviously want to have as much funding, at least, I'm sure MoDOT thinks the same way, as they want to have as much funding to give out. So that's something that I'm tracking, along with a bill that is House Bill 1619. It is a piece of drone legislation, and it seems to be, nothing that's too harmful to the city. But, my job is to make sure that every piece of legislation is vetted to make sure that it is not harming the city in any way. That bill made it seem like the city would not be able to use drones based on the legislative language. Mr. Cross and I have kind of discussed it. So I've had some conversations with the bill sponsor, and we're just kind of making sure we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's, and that the city will be able to use, along with their contractors, drones for things such as watershed erosion. So those are some things I'm working on right now. Obviously, watershed erosion is the biggest thing, and I think we're having a lot of success right now.
Sounds like it. Thank you so much. Councilmember Dodwell.
Just real quickly, on the MoDOT numbers, is anything going to be tagged specifically for the 109 and 100 corridors? Because the weather has taken a toll on those roadways this year. And let's see if we can't get the state to do the work that they sort of do
Yeah, absolutely. I can talk with MoDOT's liaison. I actually have a great relationship with him. I see him all the
Perfect.
time, so I'll make sure to
Perfect. Yeah,
mention
if-
that to him. So
Yeah, if we could find out how much is coming and what their plans are. Granted, they just were allotted, well, it's been several months since they've been allotted those funds. So let's make sure that they
You know,
continue to
That's
move
a
forward.
very salient comment. And in fact, just to give an example, the on and off ramps to Highway 100 at the new bridge at 109 have had some issues for a long time. And there are others, as Councilmember Dodwell pointed out. One option that we might do, and I don't know who you're discussing with, Jake, but it might be helpful, depending on how your discussions go, if there's no objection from the council in the next 30 days or so, to invite the lead engineer from St. Louis County MoDOT to come to the work session and have a chat about where these things are on the priority list.
yeah, that sounds great. I can talk to them next week about that. And if there's any information, I can get with Mr. Cross about it. But if there's any information about, what's going on with the on ramps, just so we can provide as much as possible. I always think that giving the most amount of information so they can make a, quick decision is always best. So
Would there be any objection to, by any member of the council, to inviting the MoDOT representative to, unless you have an issue with it, the next council meeting in 2 weeks? You're okay with that?
I can do my best. I will say that it is legislative spring break. So if it's are you looking for a liaison? to come?
No, the St. Louis County engineer.
The engineer. Okay. Yeah, I can see too, see.
Any
that they can-
objection for us doing that?
Make-
Okay, I think it'd be good to hear directly where these monies are going to be spent on the new gas tax and so forth. Councilor Garetano. So we'll do that.
Thank you, Mr.
Madam
Mayor. Yeah, my comments are just to provide the council an update that we had the Missouri Municipal League Legislative Conference last Tuesday, and I'm really grateful for the work of Mr. Jake Silverman, because myself and Councilmember Ottenberg were attending the Municipal League Legislative Conference, and so we spent the afternoon with Mr. Silverman visiting our local representatives. And it was just great to have you arrange that, and also to have the discussion ready to go when we met with them to advocate on the issues of funding for watershed erosion. We talked about internet as well. So it's a great thing to have you there, and thank you for continuing to do that for us.
Not a problem. I appreciate it.
Councilor Clark.
Yes. So there's another legislation on drones that I don't know if it's proper for me to ask for this to be checked at this point. To
Checked
just
in.
look into it. As I understand, there's a proposed legislation to be added to the FCC's banned drone equipment list. And that is from a Chinese company named DJI in Shenzhen. That's SHENZHEN. They're writing it down. And it's listed as a threat to America's national security. And this is the world's most popular, largest drone manufacturer. And in my opinion, and we need to really be careful and with our city and make sure that we're not purchasing equipment that's made by this Chinese company.
Is that a state regulation, or is that a federal regulation?
I don't know.
So I think if there's no objection, maybe the way to handle that would be to have our city administrator look at, and what, with relation to what drones we may or may not use. I don't think there's frequent usage, but if there is, to get information on that and to make sure that we're not running afoul of that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Edens.
You've been very busy and doing a great job.
Thank you.
I thought about bringing pom-poms, for the great news on the erosion task force, but I tried to keep it a little bit more professional in that. So rah, rah. But I did have a quick question. I really appreciate the list that you sent out of the bills that were filed. And I noticed there was a couple different ones from utilities, including some that would affect how easements are done. Is there anything that we need to be concerned about? Or, we do pay to move utilities, to put sidewalks in. Is there anything that's going to be competing interests that you are flagging at this time?
I'd have to see which bill you're referring to. I believe that you're talking about, are you referring to city poles, municipality poles that they're using for broadband?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. I will say they have been working on that legislation for several years. I don't necessarily know if that's going to be something that they're able to pull off or get past this year.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard, but right now the Senate is, there's a lot of infighting going on in the Senate based on maps and overalls.
Heard a few things.
That was a debate last week was on overalls. So, I think the Senate's going to be very interesting to see how much actually gets through. Usually that's actually quite a good thing for, anybody that's tracking bills. The less bills that are passed,
Right.
usually it's better for the city. But obviously I'll check into that and make sure that it's something that's not going to harm the city. And if there's any, there's
Okay.
anything I can do.
I don't believe the summary specifically mentioned broadband, so I can try to find that number of the bill, because I wrote it down on the notebook I didn't bring, naturally, of course, to be super helpful out of the many pieces of legislation that are filed. And then I just thought of this. I don't know, Steve, if you saw the email I sent Friday. If you have any extra copies about the Lawn and Garden Summit, maybe it's something you might want to take back to Jeff City with you, or you might want to come yourself, but it does demonstrate we're doing an educational event. Not only are businesses talking about issues about the environment and conservation and gardening that people want to know about, but we have the Watershed Erosion Task Force there, and MDNR will be there. So we're already demonstrating that we're trying to work with other state agencies. And it might also be a good photo op if our local representatives or the governor or anybody that's available might want to come out, because they're MU Extension. So it's a large group of agencies in the area. And they might want to make themselves available for the date. So I don't know if we have any extra printed off that we can leave you with, but if not, I'd like to send you.
That sounds great. And I can talk to, I'm meeting with the governor's staff tomorrow. I can talk to either the liaison or the governor's chief of staff and see to it that potentially he can make it out.
Lovely.
He is a busy guy, but
Yes,
we
yeah.
will see what we can.
Or even if Bruce DeGroot is available, and it is child friendly, the St. Louis Science Center will be there with children's activities. So it's not something where I would want them to choose between, family time and a photo op.
Mhm.
They can bring their kids.
That sounds great. Yeah, if I can get the date, and I can
Okay.
give them that information.
Perfect.
Mhm.
Yep, March 19th,
March 19th.
1 to
Sounds
5:30. Do we have any more photocopies?
Right now, I was sending a copy flyer.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Silverman? All right, seeing none, thank you so much.
Thank you very
Jim,
much.
for your work on behalf of us. It sounds like it's very productive already, off to a fast start, and we appreciate that.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, have a great evening. All right, that takes us to executive session. And we will need a motion for this and a roll call vote per Missouri law, made by Councilmember Bartoni to go into executive session, seconded by Councilmember Garetano. Any discussion on the motion? See no discussion on the motion. Ms. Eldridge, would you please call the roll on the motion to go into executive session?
Councilmember Galani,
Yes.
Councilmember Hopper,
Yes.
Councilmember Jaxi,
Yes.
Councilmember Bertolino,
Yes.
Councilmember Dodwell,
Yes.
Councilmember Ottenberg,
Yes.
Councilmember Edens,
Yes.
Councilmember Bros,
Yes.
Councilmember Garetano,
Aye.
Councilmember Flasher,
Yes.
Councilmember Rambo,
Yes.
Councilmember McCutcheon,
Yes.
Councilmember Farmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Nyan,
Yes.
Councilmember Bartoni,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark.
Yes.
All right, so we're going to go into executive session. Those of you who are with us in the audience, Council members, continuing with the work session, the next item on the agenda is acquisition of property in Glencoe, Ward 6. Mr. Bennett, would you like to speak to that?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. At the end of 2021, the city of Wildwood was approached by a broker representing an owner of a 1.8 acre tract of land that abuts Glencoe City Park. The tract of land is vacant and fully wooded and would provide a nice addition to Glencoe City Park. The price that was requested was $29,900 for the approximately 2 acre parcel of ground. Ultimately, through negotiations, the amount was dropped to $25,000 for the property, and the Planning and Parks Committee unanimously endorsed its acquisition for the benefit that the property would derive to the existing park. Tonight, the Department of Planning is requesting respectfully authorization to proceed forward with the due diligence, and if the due diligence is appropriate, prepare the appropriate legislation for the purchase and acquisition of this property. Thank you.
Is there a motion? Councilor Bartoni.
I'll make a motion to move forward with the department's recommendation to purchase the property.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Dodwell. Is there any discussion on the motion? See no discussion. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Moving next to Farmers Market Manager recommendation for $19,000. Mr. Vintage, do you have any comments on that?
Very briefly, Mr. Mayor, Ms. McAvoy, who has been the Farmers Market Manager since 2018, is interested in continuing forward in 2022. The terms and cost of the contract is identical to 2021, and the Planning and Parks Committee is recommending Ms. McAvoy be authorized as the city's Farmers Market Manager. Thank you.
Okay, would anyone like to make a motion relative to that? Councilmember Edens?
Yes.
The motion to approve Ms. McAvoy for that?
Yes.
Okay.
Contract, I'd like to speak on it for a second.
Okay, Councilor Bartoni seconds. Go ahead, Councilor Edens.
Yes, I just can't say enough great things about our farmers market manager. I wanted to let the council know that she has been helping to organize where the booths will go as well for the Lawn and Garden Summit. So she's going above and beyond the call of duty. And she starts her work on a Saturday for the farmers market at 5:30 in the morning. So she's a busy lady.
Thank you. See no further comments. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
I didn't get a second.
I'm sorry.
There wasn't a second.
Councilor Bartoni. I may not have announced that loud enough. So we have the motion to approve the department's recommendation to continue with the same vendor. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Next, Mr. Vintage Main Street Connection Community Empowerment Grant Program for $12,320 as a match.
Mr. Mayor, this particular item came out of Economic Development Committee of City Council and ultimately was presented as well to the Historic Preservation Commission. In both instances, this is an opportunity to receive technical support from Missouri Main Street Connection in the revitalization of Route 66 and the businesses along that portion of the historic road that is in the city of Wildwood. Ms. Edens has been instrumental in leading this particular process, and I would defer to her for any further comments. But tonight, there is a resolution that commits the city to that matching amount of funding, which would come from the department's budget, and endorsement letters from certain city council members and the mayor as well, sir.
So
Thank you.
Thank you. This is really then, it sounds like informational at this point of a work session. The action item is in the council main meeting agenda. Is that correct? Okay, thank you. The receipt and file, Joe, miscellaneous 26-21.
Again, thank you, Mayor. The Planning and Zoning Commission has provided to the City Council tonight its letter of recommendation regarding a request to amend the town center boundary and include an additional site into the Pond Historic District. For several considerations, the Planning and Zoning Commission did not support this boundary amendment. And tonight, the letter of recommendation reflecting that action is before the City Council for receipt and filing. And if there are any questions, the department would be glad to try to answer them at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Joe relative to the receipt and file? All right, seeing none, that takes us to adjournment. I would ask for a motion to adjourn the work session. Made by Councilmember Hopper, seconded by Councilmember Ottenberg, non-debatable. All in favor of the motion to adjourn, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, so we move into the main meeting of the City Council for the City of Wildwood. I'd like to call to order for Monday, February 28, 2022. Ms. Eldridge, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Bolin,
Here.
Councilmember Galani,
Here.
Councilmember Hopper,
Here.
Councilmember Jaxi,
Here.
Councilmember Bertolino,
Here.
Councilmember Dodwell,
Here.
Councilmember Ottenberg,
Here.
Councilmember Edens.
Here.
Councilmember Brost,
Here.
Councilmember Garatano,
Here.
Councilmember Flasher,
Here.
Councilmember Rambo.
Here.
Councilmember McCutcheon. Councilmember Farmer,
Here.
Councilmember Nyan,
Here.
Councilmember Bartoni,
Here.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
All right, welcome everyone. Good to see all of you, and particularly those who are with us on Zoom this evening and in the audience here at City Hall. For those of you who are comfortably able, if you would please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Moving next to the minutes from the council's February 14, 2022 work session and regular meeting. If anyone has any comments on the minutes or suggested changes that have been presented, we can entertain those now. Otherwise, I would ask for a motion to approve the minutes as presented. Motion to approve made by Councilmember Farmer. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Dodwell. Any discussion on the motion to approve the minutes as presented? See no discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion to approve the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? One abstention, Councilmember Hopper. Any other abstentions? Motion carries. Moving next to public participation. Do we have any speaker cards? Anyone raised hand on Zoom? All right. That takes us to announcements and appointments. We have one proclamation. Ms. Stevens, if you would like to come forward. Okay, so Ms. Stevens is a member of an organization called Whereas the PEO Sisterhood is a philanthropic nonprofit organization that motivates women to achieve their highest aspirations. Whereas the PEO Sisterhood was founded January 21, 1869, by 7 students on the campus of Iowa Wesleyan College and has grown to include more than 300,000 women in the United States and Canada who continue to advance educational opportunities for women. Whereas the St. Louis chapter DQ was organized as the 3rd PEO chapter in the city of St. Louis, Missouri on February 22, 1922 at St. John's Methodist Episcopal Church at South Washington and Kings Highway. And membership now includes women in several West St. Louis County communities in addition to the city of St. Louis. Whereas Chapter DQ of the PEO Sisterhood is celebrating 100 years of providing women the opportunity to improve their education through scholarships, grants, and loans. Whereas Chapter DQ of the PEO Sisterhood stays true to its mission of promoting educational opportunities for women, with education continuing to be the primary philanthropy of the PEO Sisterhood through sponsoring assistance for women to realize their potential in whatever worthwhile endeavor they choose. Whereas Chapter DQ will enter its 2nd century of service, not only staying true to its PEO mission, but also continuing to provide friendship and encouragement to women as they realize their potential and gain needed education. And finally, whereas the PEO organization demonstrates the ideals and goals which are welcomed by the city of Wildwood. Now, therefore, I, James R. Boland, Mayor of the City of Wildwood, on behalf of the City of Wildwood, do on this 28th day of February 2022, hereby proclaim February 22, 2022 as PEO Sisterhood Chapter DQ Day, and hereby recognize the PEO organization for all of its many contributions to the City of Wildwood and region. Congratulations. I just want to mention that Ms. Stevens is a member of our Historic Preservation Commission. And has been for some time, but also I think and I don't want to embarrass you with this, but you know where I'm headed. She has just an incredible political that I think
fourth great grandfather was Lillian Bell. We have a Spanish land grant on River Road.
Yeah.
And,
well, there you go. All in Jan Stevens. How about that? Congratulations. We appreciate all you do on the Historic Preservation Commission too, Ms. Stevens. All right, moving next to appointments, we have 7 of these. The first 5 relate to the Crossings Community Improvement District Board of Directors. Those would include Councilmember Garitano, Larry McGowan, who's our city treasurer, Councilmember Galani, Mr. Scott Bierman, who was recently appointed, Councilmember Bertolino. And then relative to the Architectural Review Board, we have the appointment of Mr. Stan Parsons from Ward 8, who is with us this evening. Thank you so much. He's also serves us on our Board of Ethics and has previously been approved by the council. And finally, on the Wildwood Celebration Commission, we have a vacancy there because of the 2 terms that have been served by the current holder. And so Holly Ferris, former council member, has agreed to step forward and serve on the WCC in that capacity. My question is, would there be any objection to handling these appointments in mass with 1 vote? There's no objection. I would ask for a vote to approve all the appointments as presented, made by Councilmember Dodwell, second by Councilmember Farmer. Any discussion on the motion to approve the 7 appointments? Seeing no discussion, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Congratulations, Mr. Parsons, and thank you for stepping to the plate on yet another Wildwood board. We appreciate it. All right. That takes us to second readings. The first of the second readings is Bill 2668, and it's before the council. As a result, for final passage, it concerns Ward 6. Is there a motion for the second reading of the bill? Made by Councilmember Jaxie, seconded by Councilmember Rambo. All in favor of the second reading, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Ms. Eldridge, please read Bill 2668 a second time.
Bill 2668, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, authorizing the approval of a record plat for a 3-lot minor subdivision of property, each parcel of ground exceeding 12 acres in size and generally being located on the west side of Manchester Road, north of its intersection with Melrose Road, to be known as Zeisser Farm subdivision, second reading.
All right, thank you, Mr. Benich. Anything you want to add to the information presented to the council relative to the bill?
Mr. Mayor, the bill has not been altered since its introduction approximately 5 weeks ago. I did not hear from the property owner that it should not be processed on through. So tonight, again, the department is available for any questions regarding it.
Okay, and so you're comfortable with the vote occurring tonight on the second reading?
Yes, it does not obligate the property owner to proceed forward, but it does eliminate the item from the agenda. And if there is a desire on the property owner to proceed, it's ready to go then. Thank you.
Yeah, if there's any issue, we could always reconsider it. So, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no discussion, Ms. Eldridge, please call the roll for final passage of Bill 2668.
Councilmember Bertolino,
Yes.
Councilmember Dodwell,
Yes.
Councilmember Ottenberg,
Yes.
Councilmember Edens,
Yes.
Councilmember Bros,
Yes.
Councilmember Garitano,
Aye.
Councilmember Flasher,
Yes.
Councilmember Rambo,
Yes.
Councilmember McCutcheon,
Yes.
Councilmember Farmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Nyan,
Yes.
Councilmember Bartoni,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Galani,
Yes.
Councilmember Hopper,
Yes.
Councilmember Jaxie.
Yes.
Okay, the bill passed and it is in effect. Next, Bill 2670 is before the council for final passage. It concerns all wards. Is there a motion for the second reading of the bill? Made by Councilmember Clark, seconded by Councilmember Farmer. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Ms. Eldridge, please read Bill 2670.
Bill 2670, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to execute an amended contract with Wilson Hydro LLC for the provision of professional services in support of the Watershed Erosion Task Force's efforts to begin the permitting process in association with 4 projects that will be required to obtain federal, state, and local agencies' approvals before construction, all of which have been identified as in critical need of repair, second reading.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Benich, anything further you want to mention relative to Bill 2670?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor, but thank you. I'm available for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Joe? Seeing no questions on the bill, Ms. Eldridge, please call the roll for final passage of Bill 2670.
Councilmember Dodwell,
Yes.
Councilmember Ottenberg,
Yes.
Councilmember Edens.
Yes.
Councilmember Bros,
Yes.
Councilmember Garitano, Councilmember Flasher,
Yes.
Councilmember Rambo,
Yes.
Councilmember McCutcheon,
Yes.
Councilmember Farmer,
Aye.
Councilmember Nyan,
Yes.
Councilmember Bartoni,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Galani,
Yes.
Councilmember Hopper,
Yes.
Councilmember Jaxie,
Yes.
Councilmember Bertolino.
Yes.
All right, the bill passes and is in effect. Moving next to Bill 2671, it's before the council for final passage, second reading, and it concerns Ward 1. Is there a motion for the second reading of the bill? Made by Councilmember Bros, seconded by Councilmember Clark. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Ms. Eldridge, please read Bill 2671.
Bill 2671, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to execute a contract with Todd Wagner, Wagner and Associates to provide professional consulting services relating to the Reserve at Wildwood project, a 50-acre development site recommended for 132 home sites by the Planning and Zoning Commission, second reading.
Thank you. Mr. Benich, again, anything you want to mention relative to this bill?
Just to set aside a long wait, finally, the property owners, the attorney for the developer and the city have reached a agreement on the addendum that was requested. And so finally, we're in a position to proceed forward with the additional studies. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from any member of the council on the bill? Seeing none, Ms. Eldridge, please call the roll for final passage of Bill 2671.
Councilmember Ottenberg.
Yes.
Councilmember Edens,
Yes.
Councilmember Bros,
Yes.
Councilmember Garitano,
Yes.
Councilmember Flasher,
Yes.
Councilmember Rambo,
Yes.
Councilmember McCutcheon,
Yes.
Councilmember Farmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Nian,
Yes.
Councilmember Bartoni,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Galani,
Yes.
Councilmember Hopper,
Yes.
Councilmember Jaxi,
Yes,
Councilmember Bertolino,
Yes.
Councilmember Dodwell.
Yes.
the bill passes. Moving next to Bill 2672. You may recall from our prior meeting at first reading, Bills 2672 and 2673 relate to the same development, Brightleaf and the deposit arrangements. Just as we did with first readings, would there be any objection to having these read in tandem with a single vote on both bills? All right, seeing no objection from any member of the council, Bill 2672 and 2673 are before the council for final passage. They concern Ward 5. Is there a motion for the second reading of the bills? Made by Councilmember Bertolino, seconded by Councilmember McCutcheon. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Ms. Eldridge, please read bills 2672 and 2673.
Bill number 2672, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, authorizing the approval of a replacement deposit agreement with extensions of the associated letters of credit, which are made part hereof and attached hereto for the villages at Brightleaf subdivision, Plat 1, a 71 lot residential subdivision located in Section 1, Township 44 North, Range 3 East, City of Wildwood, St. Louis County, Missouri, and more specifically situated on the northwest corner of State Route 100 and Taylor Road. Second reading.
Thank you. Joe, anything further relative to either of these bills?
No, sir, on both of the bills, I'll be available for comments when the readings are complete. Thank
Oh,
you.
I'm sorry. Hold on. My apology. I
I
got a
didn't read
little
this
ahead of
one.
myself. Please read Bill 2673.
Bill 2673, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, authorizing the approval of a replacement deposit agreement with extensions of the associated letters of credit, which are made part hereof and attached hereto for the villages at Brightleaf subdivision, Plat 2, a 19 lot residential subdivision located in Section 1, Township 44 North, Range 3 East, City of Wildwood, St. Louis County, Missouri, and more specifically situated on the northwest corner of State Route 100 and Taylor Road. Second reading.
Thank you. And now, Joe, anything further on either of the bills?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor, but I am available for any questions or comments. Thank you again.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Joe or any comments on either Bill 2672 or 2673? Seeing none, Ms. Eldridge, please call the roll for final passage of both bills.
Councilmember Edens,
Yes.
Councilmember Bros,
Yes.
Councilmember Garitano,
Yes.
Councilmember Flasher,
Yes.
Councilmember Rambo,
Yes.
Councilmember McCutcheon,
Yes.
Councilmember Farmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Nian,
Yes.
Councilmember Bartoni,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Galani,
Yes.
Councilmember Hopper,
Yes.
Councilmember Jaxi,
Yes.
Councilmember Bertolino,
Yes.
Councilmember Dodwell,
Yes.
Councilmember Ottenberg.
Yes.
Excellent. And if I may just exercise privilege of the chair, I want to acknowledge our intern who is with us this evening from Eureka High School. Thank you for being here. All right. Finally, under second readings, moving to Bill 2674, it's before the council for final passage and concerns Ward 8. Is there a motion for the second reading of the bill? Made by Councilmember Galani, seconded by Councilmember Garitano. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Ms. Eldridge, please read Bill 2674.
Bill 2674, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to execute all documents and other items that are necessary to vacate a multiple use trail easement to the benefit of the city of Wildwood, and then thereafter reestablish the same at a new location within the manors at the Meadows of Cherry Hill subdivision, of which the three trustees have agreed and signed said instruments to this effect and thereby approving such. Second reading.
Thank you. Mr. Vinich, anything further relative to Bill 2674?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor, thank you for asking, but I am available for any questions or comments.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Joe or any comments on the bill? Seeing none, Ms. Eldridge, please call the roll for final passage of Bill 2674.
Councilmember Bros,
Yes.
Councilmember Garitano,
Aye.
Councilmember Flasher, Councilmember Rambo,
Yes.
Councilmember McCutcheon,
Yes.
Councilmember Farmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Nian,
Yes.
Councilmember Bartoni,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Galani,
Yes.
Councilmember Hopper,
Yes.
Councilmember Jaxi,
Yes.
Councilmember Bertolino,
Yes.
Councilmember Dodwell,
Yes.
Councilmember Ottenberg,
Yes.
Councilmember Edens.
Yes.
All right, the bill passes and is now in effect. That takes us to first readings. Bill 2675 is before the council. It concerns all wards. Is there a motion for the first reading of the bill? Made by Councilmember Ottenberg, seconded by Councilmember Nyan. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Ms. Eldridge, please read Bill 2675.
Bill 2675, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to negotiate and execute an extension of the city contractor agreement with Kelp Contracting Incorporated on behalf of the city of Wildwood for the 2022 concrete street and sidewalk replacement project. First reading.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Brown, anything you want to mention further relative to Bill 2675?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have nothing additional to add at this moment, but I am available for any questions from the city council.
All right, does anyone have any questions for Rick relative to Bill 2675? All right, seeing none, it will be on the agenda for the next meeting of the council. Moving next to Bill 2676, it's also before the council for first reading and it concerns Ward 8. Is there a motion for the first reading of the bill? Made by Councilmember Garetano, seconded by Councilmember Galani. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Ms. Eldridge, please read Bill 2676.
Bill 2676, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to execute all necessary and required items relating to a professional services agreement with Civil Design Incorporated, CDI, as the primary consultant for the development and completion of design, engineering, and bid specifications and plans, including construction management for Phase 1 of Wildwood Village Green in the town center area. First reading.
Okay, thank you. Joe, anything you want to mention relative to Bill 2676?
Mr. Mayor and members of City Council, the bill is being introduced tonight per the direction of City Council from its last meeting. If there are any questions regarding the matter, the department would be glad to try to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Joe or any comments on the bill? All right, seeing none, moving next to Bill 2677. It's before the council also for first reading and it concerns Ward 8 as well. Is there a motion for the first reading of the bill? Made by Councilmember Garetano, seconded by Councilmember Galani. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Ms. Eldridge, please read Bill 2677.
Bill 2677, an ordinance of the city council of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to execute all necessary and required documents relating to a professional services agreement with SWT Design for the development of a master plan and design for Route 66 roadside park. First reading.
Thank you. And this came from our Historic Preservation Commission. Mr. Vintage, anything further you want to mention relative to this bill?
Mr. Mayor, I think you identified the pertinent fact and I'm available for any comments or questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Joe or any comment? All right, that'll also be on the council's agenda for its next meet. I'm sorry. Councilmember Clark.
Yeah, I was just wondering if the Route 66, if that is a trademark, do we need to do something special with using that name?
Is Route 66 a trademark?
Not that I'm aware of. It's just, no. I can double check it, but I would imagine it's not. It's part of the public realm at this point.
Thank you for the question, though. Any further questions? All right, seeing none. Moving next to Bill 2678. It's before the council for first reading, and it also concerns Ward 8. Is there a motion for the first reading of the bill made by Councilmember Galani, seconded by Councilmember Garetano? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Ms. Eldridge, please read Bill 2678.
Bill 2678, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, that hereby endorses, ratifies, and authorizes a change to the town center regulating plan, the rezoning of property, and the application of a planned residential development overlay district, PRD, onto a set of properties totaling 2.5 acres that are located on the north and south sides of New College Avenue, west of West Avenue, and east of State Route 109, thereby allowing up to 18 attached row houses on individual lots with common ground and required public spaces areas, all being consistent with the Planning and Zoning Commission's action upon its letter of recommendation being dated January 18th, 2022, first reading.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Vintage, anything you want to mention relative to this bill?
Mr. Mayor, thank you again. Mr. Mayor and members of City Council, a public hearing was held on this matter on February 14th before City Council. At the conclusion of the hearing, the City Council authorized the preparation of legislation. That legislation reflects the discussion held by City Council and the letter of recommendation from Planning and Zoning Commission. If there are any questions or comments, the department would be glad to try to answer them at this time. Thank you again.
Thank you. Any comments or questions for Joe? Councilmember Dodwell?
I'm just curious as to why the diagram that you have shown on the screen here and any other additional items that might be helpful to the public and or council members wasn't attached to this agenda. We normally do that on first readings, don't we? Because I'm
Joe?
not seeing anything but the
Mr. Vinich?
plan to move
Mr.
it
Mayor,
together.
to Ms. Dodwell, typically all of that information is available at the public hearing. Certainly, if the City Council would like that information, or at least direct maps or plats like this attached, we can certainly do that if there's no objection.
That, or maybe put in some links within your document here. So if the public's looking at this, they have the ability to go to those links where additional information can be found. We just used to add all that information into these documents.
So with no
previously.
objection, we'll do links since it can be very voluminous with all the stuff. Okay, any objection to that? All right, thank you, Councilmember Dodwell. Anything
Okay.
further?
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. So the bill will be on the council's next agenda. Moving next to Bill 2679. It's before the council also for first reading, and it concerns Ward 1. Is there a motion for the first reading of the bill made by Councilmember Clark, second by Councilmember Brost? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Ms. Eldridge, please read the bill.
Bill 2679, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, that hereby authorizes the rezoning of a property which totals 6.4 acres and being located on the west side of State Route BA, north of Pond Road, from the FPPS Floodplain Parks and Scenic District and PS Park and Scenic District to the FPNU Floodplain Non-Urban Residence District and NU Non-Urban Residence District for the purposes of residential use, all being consistent with the Planning and Zoning Commission's action on January 18th, 2022 regarding its letter of recommendation on this matter, first reading.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Benich, anything you want to mention further relative to Bill 2679?
Mr. Mayor and members of City Council, a public hearing was held on this matter on February 14th before this body. At the conclusion of the hearing, a motion, second, and vote was made to allow the preparation of this legislation. I would just note that Mr. and Mrs. Spitznagel have been through our Historic Preservation Commission, the Board of Adjustment, the Architectural Review Board, the Planning and Zoning Commission, and now City Council. And I just want to extend my appreciation for their patience through that process. If there are any questions, I'd be glad to answer them at this time.
Thank you. Would there be any objection to a second reading?
Not from the department. I imagine the Spitznagels would be dancing in their front room.
Okay. I saw your hand, Councilmember Clark.
That's exactly what I was going to ask.
Okay, so we have a motion for second reading and seconded by Councilmember Brost. As you know, this will require a supermajority 2/3 vote. We'll see where we go by voice vote and take it from there. All in favor of the motion for second reading being done tonight, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So we have the requisite 2/3 majority, supermajority vote required. Ms. Eldridge, please read Bill 2679 a second time.
Bill 2679, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, that hereby authorizes the rezoning of a property which totals 6.4 acres and being located on the west side of State Route BA, north of Pond Road, from the FPPS Floodplain Parks and Scenic District and PS Park and Scenic District to the FPNU Floodplain Non-Urban Residence District and NU Non-Urban Residence District for the purposes of residential use, all being consistent with the Planning and Zoning Commission's action on January 18th, 2022, regarding its letter of recommendation on this matter, second reading.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from any member of the council? Seeing none, Ms. Eldridge, please call the roll for final passage of Bill 2679.
Councilmember Bros.
Yes.
Councilmember Garitano.
Yes.
Councilmember Flasher.
Yes.
Councilmember Rambo.
Yes.
Councilmember McCutcheon.
Yes.
Councilmember Farmer.
Yes.
Councilmember Nian.
Yes.
Councilmember Bartoni.
Yes.
Councilmember Clark.
Yes.
Councilmember Galani.
Yes.
Councilmember Hopper.
Yes.
Councilmember Jaxi.
Yes.
Councilmember Bertolino.
Yes.
Councilmember Dodwell.
Yes.
Councilmember Ottenberg.
Yes.
Councilmember Edens.
Yes.
Bill 2679 has passed and is in effect. That takes us to Bill 2680, and it concerns Ward 5, also a deposit agreement. Is there a motion for Brightleaf, I believe? Is there a motion for first reading of the bill? Maybe Councilmember Bertolino. Let's get a second first. Do we have a seconded by Councilmember Dodwell? All in favor of the motion for first reading, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Do you want your question answered before first reading? Go ahead.
So from Bill 2672 and 2673, and then the addition of this one, it's only 192 lots. What happened to the other lots? Where'd they go?
Mr. Benich.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. McCutcheon, ultimately, there were only 192 lots platted. The ordinance allowed, I think, for 194, but at the end of the day, they couldn't fit them all on there, I guess, so to speak. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Eldridge, please read the bill for the first time.
Bill 2680, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri that authorizes the approval of a replacement deposit agreement with extensions of the associated letters of credit, which are made part hereof and attached hereto for the villages at Brightleaf subdivision, plat 3, a 102 lot residential subdivision located in section 1, township 44 north, range 3 east, city of Wildwood, St. Louis County, Missouri, and more specifically situated on the northwest corner of State Route 100 and Taylor Road, first reading.
Thank you. And Mr. Benich, I have a question. Given, and I'm not sure all the intricacies of this, but given that we just had two that passed with second reading, and now we have this for first reading, to keep everything in sync, would there be any objection to the council doing a second reading on this one tonight as well?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I would appreciate it very much. This particular plat has a longer default date, but it's still within a short period of time. So I would appreciate it if the council would not mind. Thank you for offering.
We have a motion for second reading being done this evening by Councilmember Bertolino, seconded by Councilmember McCutcheon. As I just mentioned, it's a supermajority 2/3 vote requirement to do that this evening. We'll see where we get with the voice vote. All in favor of the motion for second reading being done tonight, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The supermajority requirement has been met. Ms. Eldridge, please read Bill 2680 a second time.
Bill 2680, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri that authorizes the approval of a replacement deposit agreement with extensions of the associated letters of credit, which are made part hereof and attached hereto for the villages at Brightleaf subdivision, plat 3, a 102 lot residential subdivision located in section 1, township 44 north, range 3 east, city of Wildwood, St. Louis County, Missouri, and more specifically situated on the northwest corner of State Route 100 and Taylor Road, second reading.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions from any member of the council? Seeing none, Ms. Eldridge, please call the roll for final passage of Bill 2680.
Councilmember Garitano. Councilmember Flasher.
Yes.
Councilmember Rambo.
Yes.
Councilmember McCutcheon.
Yes.
Councilmember Farmer.
Yes.
Councilmember Nian.
Yes.
Councilmember Bartoni.
Yes.
Councilmember Clark.
Yes.
Councilmember Galani.
Yes.
Councilmember Hopper.
Yes.
Councilmember Jaxi.
Yes.
Councilmember Bertolino.
Yes.
Councilmember Dodwell.
Yes.
Councilmember Ottenberg.
Yes.
Councilmember Edens.
Yes.
Councilmember Bros.
Yes.
Right, the bill has passed and is in effect. Moving next to Bill 2681 for the council for first reading, and it concerns all wards. Is there a motion for the first reading of the bill? We have a Councilmember Bros, second by Councilmember Ottenberg. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Ms. Eldridge, please read Bill 2681.
Bill 2681, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to negotiate and execute a cost share agreement with the Missouri Department of Conservation under the Tree Resource Improvement and Maintenance Trim Grant Program for state funding to complete a citywide inventory of street trees. First reading.
Thank you. Mr. Brown, anything you want to mention relative to the bill?
Thank you, Mayor Boland. I know I have nothing additional, but I'm available for any questions from the city council.
Okay, any questions from any member of the council? All right, seeing none, this will be on the agenda for your next meeting. Moving next to Bill 2682 as the last of the first readings. It's before the council and concerns Ward 7. Is there a motion for the first reading of the bill? Made by Councilmember Hopper, second by Councilmember Flasher. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Ms. Eldridge, please read Bill 2682.
Bill 2682, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to negotiate and execute a memorandum of understanding with St. Louis County, Missouri, to provide for rapid rectangular flashing beacons at the pedestrian crossing located on Old State Road, immediately west of the intersection of Old State Road and Ridge Road within the city. First reading.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Brown, anything you want to mention relative to the bill?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess I'd say if Steve Cross, our city administrator, would like to speak to this, I would certainly defer to our city administrator.
Anything
If
you want
not,
to mention, Mr. Cross? I think we're all pretty familiar with.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Rick and I are available for any questions.
Given the exigency of this and our past discussions, would there be any sentiment for a second reading, objection to a second reading for this?
No objection at all, Mr. Mayor. That would be appreciated. Thank you.
Second reading motion made by Councilmember Hopper, seconded by Councilmember Flasher. Again, a 2/3 supermajority requirement. We'll do a voice vote to see where that goes. All in favor of the motion for second reading being done this evening, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Ms. Eldridge, please read Bill 2682 a second time.
Bill 2682, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to negotiate and execute a memorandum of understanding with St. Louis County, Missouri, to provide for rapid rectangular flashing beacons at the pedestrian crossing located on Old State Road, immediately west of the intersection of Old State Road and Ridge Road within the city. Second reading.
All right, thank you for that second reading. Ms. Eldridge, any comments or questions from any member of the council relative to this item? Seeing none, Ms. Eldridge, please call the roll for final passage of Bill 2682.
Councilmember Flasher,
Aye.
Councilmember Rambo,
Yes.
Councilmember McCutcheon,
Yes.
Councilmember Farmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Nyan,
Yes.
Councilmember Bartoni,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Galani,
Aye.
Councilmember Hopper,
Yes.
Councilmember Jaxi,
Yes.
Councilmember Bertolino,
Yes.
Councilmember Dodwell,
Of course.
Councilmember Ottenberg,
Yes.
Councilmember Edens,
Yes.
Councilmember Brost,
Yes.
Councilmember Garitano.
All right, thank you. The bill has passed and is in effect, and we'll get that work done. Finally, moving next to Resolution 22-7 before the council. It concerns wards 1, 7, and 8. Is there a motion to adopt Resolution 2022-7 made by Council Member Clark, seconded by Council Member Flasher? Ms. Eldridge, please read the resolution.
Resolution 2022-7, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Wildwood, Missouri, which hereby commits that during the 2-year grant period, appropriate city officials will attend a minimum of 1/2+1 offered regional workshops or conferences per year conducted by Missouri Main Street Connection for the purpose of learning the Main Street 4-point approach to revitalization as described in the Community Empowerment Grant application during the startup phase of the revitalization initiative.
Thank you, Mr. Vintage. Anything you want to mention relative to the resolution?
Mr. Mayor, thank you again. Mr. Mayor and members of City Council, this particular program and this grant opportunity come from Missouri Main Street Connection. It started at the Economic Development Committee, which endorsed it, and then went to the Historic Preservation Commission, which also endorsed it. Tonight, this is a resolution that's requested by the not-for-profit organization. And if there are any questions, I'm sure Ms. Edens, Ms. Ripito, or I would be glad to try to answer them at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing no, Councilor Dodwell.
I would just like to publicly state that the presentation made by our staff members that did attend a conference with this organization did an excellent job of outlining the benefits of a program like this, even though our particular corridor is much different than what you might see in, say, St. Genevieve or St. Charles, et cetera. So I think we do have some very good opportunities to find ways to improve our historical districts and make them more enjoyable for our residents and for those who travel across the country. Just this past summer, I met a couple standing at Ted Drew's who had driven through the entire area of Wildwood so that they could see some of the buildings and were very appreciative of the markers that we had put up, et cetera. So we do get people coming through here to find out more about what's gone on in Wildwood and what is going on in Wildwood. So I thank everyone for providing this particular opportunity for the city in and of itself, and for you guys for finding this.
Thank you. Any further comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion to adopt resolution 2022-7, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That takes us to the approval of expenditures under the consent agenda. If there are no questions on the expenditures, I would ask for a motion to approve them as presented, made by Councilmember Ottenberg, second by Councilmember Farmer. Any discussion on the motion to approve expenditures as presented? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Expenditures are approved. Anything under miscellaneous? Councilmember Dodwell.
I know I'm being a pain tonight because I keep raising my hand, but I do have a question. I saw the information regarding the individuals that need to be appointed to the census review and redistricting process. I'm wondering whether we could share the census information as it is today by ward with each of the council members sometime in the next week and a half.
Absolutely. Get that to
Thank you.
Mr. Cross, would you please do that? Okay. Anything, Councilor Bartoni?
I just want to recognize Megan, who did a lot of reading tonight and did a great job.
Even when she was interrupted by the mayor inadvertently. And my apology again for that. All right. Thank you, Councilmember Bartoni. Anything further? Motion to adjourn? Made by Councilmember Farmer, second by Councilmember Flasher, non-debatable motion. All in favor of the motion to adjourn, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? We are adjourned. Thank you, council members, for another good meeting. Have a great week.